this very important subject called jewelry design. She is Ayoka. She will be presenting. I wanted to make this video for also a very specific reason. Most of the design you see me publish on social media, most of the time, these are not jewelry designs. They are just tasteless soup. Hello, my name is ROHRBACH. Today I'm here to talk about jewelry design. Let's get right into the subject. Gemstone plus shape of gold equals a jewel. So apparently for the world, the job of the jewelry designer is that shape made of gold. So he shapes the gold and that's the design. So obviously you should know by now that is not the correct answer. But the thing is, what is a jewelry design? Even if millions of you, money. Now, obviously, this is a bit surprising. Your title is jewelry designer, but what you do is not jewelry design. Gemstone plus shape of gold equals a jewel. Who knows? Jewelry design can be whatever you say it is. Who cares? So, some questions that you should ask yourselves. Let me refresh your memory real quick. Let's take this ring by example. So, this ring has the gemstone and a shape in gold. Because almost everybody around the world, boys and girls, would think that this type of designs with a gemstone and gold is a jewel, and that the jewelry designer's job and work is to come with the idea of what exactly. So, if you go to the store to buy this ring, this jewelry design, what is the salesperson going to tell you? She'll tell you the price of the jewel, and then what? $599 with a fantastic discount of 15% because it's St. Valentine's Day. And then what? She'll tell you it's a 14 karat yellow gold ring, the weight, and then what? How many carats of diamonds you have on the ring, and then what? She'll tell you the price of the gemstone, she'll tell you the size of the gemstone, the color of the gemstone, and then what? Maybe a name for the gemstone, maybe a country of origin for the gemstone if you're lucky, and then what? It's very elegant, pretty, for your girlfriend, for your wife, for your mother. And then what? And that's exactly what you will be buying: a gemstone and some metal. What is the job of a jewelry designer? What is the job of a jewelry designer? What is the job of a jewelry designer? Who knows? Jewelry design can be whatever you say it is. So, by example, let's say I have this pair of socks. On how things really go when you don't ask the correct questions, when you don't really think. It's not because your title says you're a jewelry designer that you're effectively making jewelry design. Now, obviously, this is a bit surprising. Your title is jewelry designer, but what you do is not jewelry design. Let me explain. Except that these are very normal socks. Now, if I take this, put it here on my finger, like this, wearing it, this is not a sock anymore. This is a sock. Now, this is a ring.
Do not jump to conclusions just now. It's not because it's made using other materials or extravagant shapes that it suddenly becomes a jewelry design.
Guess what? The first jewels were not made of gold and gemstones at all. It's a fact known all around the world by all of you. You just forget it. Just remember, jewels are made of any materials. This is a fabulous jewelry design, a fantastic fashion ring. Go get this right now. It's going to be trending for this season. It's a superb cotton ring designed by Designe ROHRBACH. Find it in the most fashionable jewelry gallery next to you in New York, in Milan, in Paris, Mexico City, in Tokyo.
Sao Paulo. This is the most trending jewelry design.
And that's exactly what millions of people, even professionals, very famous professionals, believe about jewelry design. And to be clear about this, all of you as witnesses on how the process of designing jewelry is a very simple and childish process that any one of you can do at home with absolutely no studies, with absolutely no knowledge about, let's say, maybe something important as, after all, who knows about gemology, jewelry manufacturing, jewelry history, jewelry design. But then I just manufacture a jewel, so I know how to manufacture jewelry. So I'm entitled to be a jewelry designer, as millions of you. And who are you to judge my designs? Maybe it sells. If correctly marketed, this design can sell millions. That's our business. That's how it goes. Nobody ever asks what jewelry design is. A ring is a ring, an earring is an earring, a bracelet is a bracelet. Who cares? So, some questions that you should ask yourselves. Because we are all here to become and to be jewelry designers. So now, the real questions that you should ask yourselves, any jeweler, any jewelry designer, any jewelry addict, or any jewelry lover, buying jewelry, gifting jewelry, making jewelry, designing jewelry, making 3D models of jewels, because we're all here to be real jewelers and real jewelry designers. A lot of work. But the thing is, what is a jewelry design? One of the funniest things that occurs almost in any country in the world. If you're looking for a jewelry designing job, a jewelry designing position, and you go to the press, to the websites, find a job, every now and then there's a jewelry position that's going to open. We're looking for a graphic designer for the position of, you guessed it, jewelry designer. I obviously had a perfect position as a jewelry teacher, school founder, and school director to observe firsthand a lot of phenomena around the world. The jewelry designer ads for jobs will be looking for graphic designer. Why? Because there are no really training jewelry designers. Who cares? I know I did train jewelry designers for 20 years. I received students from all around the world, which was one of the best part of the experience of running a jewelry school. But the problem is very complex because, like I always say, and I will always keep saying that, first you need to be a jeweler to become a jewelry designer. And why do I say that all the time? Money, 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 money. From the most basic intention, I'm not judging you. 20 years ago, I was just like you. The jewelry world is so big, is so vast. There are many ways of making jewels. There are many ways to make money as a jeweler, maybe as a jewelry designer. But obviously also there are many ways to not make money as a jeweler, and even more ways to not make money as a jewelry designer. Because I want as many people as possible to know what real jewelry design is. You, many of your friends, a jewelry business, your family, to anyone. I wanted to make jewels to make money. I had no idea about jewelry design at all. So obviously for me, as almost every one of you, this type of ring was all I knew about jewelry. Some gemstone, some gold. And that's the definition of jewelry design for the entire world. This is a fabulous jewelry design, a fantastic fashion ring. My fantastic cotton ring design would just be laughed at or maybe just ignored because almost everybody around the world, boys and girls, would think that this type of designs with a gemstone and gold is a jewel, and that the jewelry designer's job and work is to come with the idea of what exactly? What is the job of a jewelry designer? What does a jewelry designer decide? Ask yourself the good questions. What does a jewelry designer decide? The color of the gemstone, the size of the gemstone, the name of the gemstone, the color of the gold. If you don't even know about jewelry history, if you don't even know about the materials making a jewel, what does a jewelry designer decide? The weight of the jewel, the size of the jewel, the color of the jewel, white, rose, yellow. What does a jewelry designer designs? Who knows? How are you going to know the color of the gemstone, the size of the gemstone, the size of the ring, the weight of the ring, the color of the gold? What does a jewelry designer decides? So now that I raised questions, gemstone plus a shape made of gold equals a jewel. So apparently for the world, the job of the jewelry designer is that thing, is that shape made of gold. So he shapes the gold and that's the design. So obviously you should know by now that is not the correct answer. What is the job of a jewelry designer? What is the goal of a jewelry designer? How do you become a jewelry designer? What are you supposed to study? First, you should study jewelry making. So first, become a jeweler. Because when you're a jeweler, you have a very specific job to make jewels. And because the idea of almost the entire world is that a jewel is something with a gemstone and made of gold, or maybe silver or platinum, maybe for most of the world, a real jewel is a gemstone and a shape. And that answer, sadly, seems so very, very satisfactory for so many millions of people that this answer that the jewelry designer is here to shape the ring, and the shape only, the appearance, the visible shape of the ring is the jewelry designer's job and goal and work and decision. Sadly, that it's admitted as the correct answer for jewelry design. So obviously you should know by now that is not the correct answer. Now the problem is that almost nobody around the world needs a jewelry designer. And why would that be? Because jewelers take all the decisions about the shape of the gold, of the metal. The jeweler, I repeat, the jeweler's job is to shape the gold. That's the job of the jeweler. The goldsmith shapes the gold. He decides because he makes the shape, and he decides, the jeweler decides where the gemstones go and how they're going to be set in the gold. So many settings for the gemstone that the jewelers know how to make. The jeweler decides the shape of the jewel. The jeweler decides where the gemstones go. So, in this equation, gemstone plus shape of gold equals jewel. Who decides all that? The jeweler. The jeweler decides all of that. So, why would I need a jewelry designer for? jewelers, they don't need jewelry designers because the jeweler, guess what, is already the jewelry designer. Now the problem is that almost nobody around the world needs a jewelry designer. The jeweler designs the jewels. So, how do you become a jewelry designer? So first, you become a jeweler because when you make jewels, guess what? You are going to decide the shape of the gold and where the gemstones go and how they set there. So guess what? You will be taking jewelry designers' decisions. You will be making the job of a jewelry designer. The jeweler makes the money. See? Very easy answer. Life is funny. Because the concept that this shape and gemstone equation is the best explanation for the job of a jewelry designer, believe me, become a jeweler first. Because everybody will know exactly what you're doing. And what you're doing is you manufacture jewels. Because jewelers make jewels. Repeat after me. Jewelers make jewels. Jewelers design jewels. Jewelers sell jewels. So all you want, all you dreamed for, that is designing jewelry and making money by selling jewels, well, guess what? Whose job is that? That's the jeweler's job. So what should you become? A jewelry designer? That nobody knows what a jewelry designer's job is, and anyway nobody needs jewelry designers because anybody that has a jewelry manufacturer anyway is looking for a graphic designer. The jewelry factories, they're looking for graphic designers to design the rings because it's just the shape and where the gemstones go. That's all a jewelry designer is supposedly doing. So obviously you should know by now that is not the correct answer. So now that I explained that almost the entire world believes that a jewelry designer's job is this, in shape and gemstone and equation equal jewel, it's time to open some eyes and open some minds. As many as possible, hopefully. And by the way, what is a jewel? Because to design a jewel, you must first know what a jewel is. And one of the most fantastic things about jewelry, the history of jewelry, who was the first person to make a jewel? Do animals manufacture jewels? Do animals use jewelry? And humanity has been manufacturing jewels and designing jewels for about
140,000 years.
The most fascinating part, there are not that many things around us that have such a long history of being made by humans. So the question you should also ask yourself is, why are we using jewels? What are jewels for? Are jewels here to make money? Well, guess what? Obviously, jewels were not invented to make money. Very quickly, jewels are here for many other reasons. Thousands of better reasons. Just making money. Making money is not the answer to jewelry design. If you're a kid, a boy or a girl, a pretty looking rock, you can find gemstones in riverbeds. On my part, I found it in the mountains. A rock with very, very nice shines. The impact it has on you, because the way it shines, because the way the colors interact with the light, the impact it has on each and one of us is just amazing. Always remember that. Or if you find a gold nugget, that's the dream of the gold rush. Well, just the shine of the gold, remember, drew people crazy, and not so long ago, and it still does. Never forget that. But very, very, very ancient jewels were most of the time not made of gold or any type of gemstones. The first jewels were most of the time bones. The teeth, like a shark, a tiger tooth, parts of animals, the horns, and you're the lucky one, well, just exactly as a child who sees a fantastic gold nugget shining through the water or a fantastic gemstone shining in the dirt, what will be your first intention? To wear it, 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 to wear it. A hunter found a tiger tooth. That was the first jewelry design. That's the natural instinct of humans, of the entire humanity. We have that encrypted inside us. When finding something spectacular, like a gold nugget, like a tiger tooth, like an amethyst, what we want to do with that, we want to wear it, to show to the rest of the world, to show it to everybody and to tell them, I'm the one who found that, I'm the one, oh, I found that tiger tooth, I have tiger tooth. Oh look, I have an amethyst, it shines purple, so pretty. You want to show that to the entire world, to tell the rest of the world that you are so special. And you must be the king. And you must be the queen. You must be the ruler of them all. My precious. Here we are. That's jewelry history for 80,000 years. Resume to you in 10 seconds. See how easy it is to design jewelry? So now, you can start to understand a bit about what jewelry is and jewelry design might be. So I know my socks are not that spectacular, but nonetheless, if I take this sock and wrap it around my finger, I am wearing something made of a material with a specific shape and idea. This is jewelry design. This is a fantastic ring design. Like it or not,
this cannot be proven wrong.
That's exactly 80,000 years of jewelry history and jewelry design explained to you in 10 seconds. Now, that's all very pretty, but we still have to answer, what does a jewelry designer decide? So you should know that it's not because millions of people believe that something is the truth that it is the truth. So we're here to make the very serious question, what is jewelry design? The shape of a jewel, where the gemstones go on the jewel, that's my job as a jewelry designer. What is the job of a jewelry designer? What are the jewelry designer's decisions? You want to become a jewelry designer. You think that your job is to shape the gold and decide where the gemstones go here and there. Well, congratulations. Fantastic dream job you want to have. Well, happily, my job goes way beyond that. Because imagine, come on, studying for 12 years, maybe more, maybe studying my entire life just to decide the shape of trivial objects and where the little gemstones go on that shape.
That's my job.
You think I would have studied Latin and Greek and mathematics and technical drawing and jewelry making, about gemology and sacred geometry and 3D modeling, just so that my job for the rest of my life would be to shape some gold and decide where some small gemstone would go on that lousy shape?
That's what you think I've been doing every day for 20 years?
Millions of you here, just really? That's what you want to do? That's why you're here?
With that dream in your head, boys and girls dreaming of becoming jewelry designers?
To end up deciding the shape of little trinkets and the position of some gemstones on these trinkets?
Really?
That's your life? That's your dream job? You think that that's my job? You think that's what I do day after day? Are you alright up there? Everything alright in your heart, body and soul? So, do you really think that's the jewelry designer's job? Man, that would be so boring and senseless. be my guest. Go ahead. Start designing jewels, whatever that means. Shaping and placing gemstone here and there. Alright? Congratulations. Now come on. You be serious. And the best way to answer. So let's design a jewel together to find out the real answer to that fantastic question. First, and the most important element of jewels is that a jewel, by definition, we'll talk about that some other day, but a jewel, by definition, must be usable on some part of the body, of the human body. Because we're not going to design a jewel for my cats just now. We could, we'll do that someday. The body is the measure of the jewel. And we are going to design a ring. It must fit on the fingers. It can be also on the foot. So if it's going to be a ring, I need a finger size. And that's just a circle. Finger size number 9.
Jewelry and Jewelry Design 001.
So now that I know the size, well, basically I can do whatever I want. We already talked about that. My ring can be any shape, can be any color, can be any material, because that's really what it is. Jewelry design is about any shape, any material, any color you want. There's no limit, because actually gold jewelry is a very specific segment of the jewelry world, of the jewelry industry. It's a very specific segment, but it's not the only segment, because taking anything, any object, and wearing it anywhere on the body, that's already jewelry, and that's already jewelry design. And guess what? The first jewels were not made of gold and gemstones at all. It's a fact known all around the world by all of you. You just forget it. Just remember, jewels are made of any materials. So, making a ring design with my socks is not crazy at all. Many of you will laugh, but obviously, and then we have jewelry branches. By example, contemporary jewelry is in fact the oldest jewelry in the universe. Making jewelry with any material for any part of the body. That's now called contemporary jewelry, but that's historic jewelry, because the first jewels were made of anything you could find. So now it's called contemporary jewelry. We call that irony, and obviously we can just but laugh about it.
It's when we can laugh at our life's problems that we find the best answers.
Cats and people, let's design a jewel right here, right now. Inspiration for a jewel. The idea for the shape. It can be round, it can be square, it can be triangular, any shape. Why this one? Why that one? Because I like it? Because I fancy so? Well, sadly, that's the answer of almost any jewelry designer you can find. That's a poor decision. Oh, I like it round. Oh, I like it square. Oh, I like it triangular. Because I like it. Because I fancy so. No. That's too poor. That's the poorest decision you can have. On the scale of design, designing is not about your ego or the client's ego, just by the way. The jewelry designer's real job is to find the best reason to shape something specifically, to understand that in practice. So now, let's make some real jewelry design. So, it's going to be a ring, yes?
Let's use a standard size.
So, this is size 9, alright? First element, measures. Every time. Great. Now, well, you need an idea. So obviously that's where people say, well, just get an idea and that's it. Like, let's make a flower, let's make a butterfly, throwing some gemstones or shape. Not exactly the way it goes. Okay, so I'm a Sagittarius. That's a starting point. By example, I can start with my zodiac sign to use something that many people can relate to. So the symbol of Sagittarius has an arrow somewhere. It's one of the best way to represent the Sagittarius So that means that my ring will have an arrow somewhere. It's necessary. And here you can already see the difference. The word itself, it's necessary. A Sagittarius ring without an arrow somewhere in the design will never represent a Sagittarius. Well, I didn't make the world, I didn't make the symbols. Know your culture. That's fundamental for any designer, not only jewelry designers, any designers. Great. So, and I'll have an arrow. So now also Sagittarius is a fire sign, fire element. So somehow I need to represent the fire. So now, very bad jewelry companies manufactured very bad jewelry designers are going to use the shape of the fire like the flame, but that's not really part of the Sagittarius symbol. It's the element, so that's more abstract. Okay, so a good designer, and we are good designers, we're not going to use the shape of the fire in the design. We're going to use the concept of fire. So now, how can I do that? In jewelry, yellow gold represents, you guessed it, the sun, and by connection represents the fire, but also represents the masculine element. And that's very interesting because the arrow shape is a very strong masculine element. I don't make the symbols, I didn't make the world. Know your culture. So we have sun, yellow gold, fire, arrow, Sagittarius. Great. That's something the design needs to have. If I use silver trying to represent the sun and fire, well, I would be just
A wrong.
jewelry designer. Not even a bad one, but just
A wrong.
one. Okay? That's how it goes. That's your job, actually. You don't know it? Well, learn about it. Jewelry design is a very specific design segment and requires as much as knowledge as possible. Believe me. The more you know, the better you design jewels. Because
140,000 years.
of human history, of cultures, religions, all the symbols, all the materials, all the colors, they all bring some cultural connection, some knowledge, some very ancient knowledge inside the designs. There's no mistake, there's no luck in a good design. There's just a lot of knowledge and a lot of culture, okay? So that's also why training is so hard. If you want to make a house, get an architect. If you want to make a jewel, get a jeweler, a jewelry designer. This is the way. I was born and raised between Mexican and Swiss culture, so the concept of having opposites and contrasts. Now, the sun, the moon, the arrow, the sphere, great, yellow gold, silver. As we all know, silver represents femininity in the metal realm. So silver, the moon, the shape, the sphere, and obviously the sphere is a very good contrast to the triangle, to the arrow. So here we can have a much greater dimension taking place in this design. So now the question is, because obviously the arrow is going to make the body of the ring in yellow gold. So now I would like to use the moon, the sphere, the femininity in my design. The jewelry designer must ask himself is where I'm going to put this element. Here to the side, here, down here, up there, where? Because the position of the element is the composition of the element, as in each art form, you need to put things somewhere and the composition must be meaningful. Otherwise, you're just making a tasteless, meaningless metal and gemstone soup. That's exactly what any jewelry designer must avoid, making tasteless metal and gemstone soup. Don't do that. That's the mistake that the industry makes. People designing and making jewelry make. So few people are really interested in designing jewelry, in creating something that makes sense, really an art form, really taking the jewelry design work as something very serious and very meaningful. So few people the right way. I didn't make the world. I won't change the world. Do it as you want. Because once you know, it will be your responsibility to do it differently, the right way. So, where do I put the sphere? I have an entire circle where to put my sphere. But guess what? What happens if I put the sphere right up there, in the middle, at the top? Well, that would be quite interesting. You know what? Because, by example, Let's take the Taoistic idea of the universe. Well, the universe is feminine. So it would be quite correct to put the feminine element up there. And also remember, we are all born from a woman. The sphere is going to be the feminine mother element right up there. And what I'm going to do is that I was born, I just said that, so we're going to use that in the design. I was born from a woman, so I'm coming out. So the arrow is going to come out. There's the element, we are going to see the element come out into fire, you know, the trial of fire, the Sagittarius, the masculine element, the sun, they're coming out. So that's very important. And now what's going to happen is that the arrow is going to make all the way around and come back to the feminine element. But obviously, I won't be coming back to my mother because that's not the way things go. This is not an Oedipian complex story. This is the story of life. So you come out, you go through the trials of life, make the natural circle, and you fall in love with a woman. You have children, and the story starts again. The cycles starts all over again. And now that we're at it, let me still mention two elements that I can make more interesting still. I talked about the natural cycle of life. You're born, you fall in love, it all starts again. All right? So it means that there is a direction to this movement. So I need something dynamic in my design. And guess what? I can very well use the arrowhead. An arrow mostly have one arrowhead, and that's it. But if things are in movement, what I can do is like a stop motion, the arrowhead 3 times. That would be a great idea. 3 times right there to express the movement, a cycle in progress. And expressing movement in art and in jewelry design is always very interesting. Now also a final touch, because like I said, always think like a jeweler, and the jeweler manufactures, makes the jewel with his hands. So you must always think about making the jewel in real life. That's why I think as a jeweler first. That's why I study jewelry making first. Then you will design jewels the right way for very obvious reasons. So the finishing touch and textures to the metals, because for the fire we can have rose gold, the arrowhead's going to be yellow gold, and the moon, the sphere, is going to be silver. So obviously everything could be polished, but because I was talking about contrasts, the sun, the moon, what I can do when finishing the ring is obviously polish the arrow. The fire is very bright, it's very strong, it's the sun, it's the movement, and the sphere, the silver sphere, can very well have a satin finish or even a bit of moon texture to it. With a satin finish, it will look also like a pearl. So pearls also are very feminine. Silver, you can see it's a full, complete meaning. Technical, cultural, artistic, inside a design to complete the contrasts between the elements in the finishing touch of the master jeweler. And that's exactly why think of the exact finishing processes that you're going to give to the jewel. Isn't that great? And this is a ring design. This is jewelry design. And now you're all witnesses of how the jewelry design process really works and really goes. And that's exactly my job as a jewelry designer. And also, obviously, I wanted to make this video for also a very specific reason. Most of the design you see me publish on social media, most of the time, these are not jewelry designs. They are just tasteless soups. Most clients, they don't care because that's the soup they're used to. They want the same jewels that they see on TV, in fashion magazines. We're all part of the chain of fools. That's why I wanted to explain and to show you there's a lot more in the job that I do as a jewelry designer. The jewelry industry always makes the same tasteless soup, and the business is always the same. But there's also a great part that you'll never get to see. But today, I'm happy that I made this video because genuinely you can see there's a lot more than meets the eyes. When my friends laughed at me because I was tagged as a superficial person, because most of the time people consider jewelers to be very vain, very superficial persons because we're dealing with bling bling and money and superficial life. Many people think that there's no culture in the jewelry field, in the jewels, in making jewels and designing jewels. I fulfilled my full responsibility to share that part of my knowledge, and now you're witnesses. Now you know. Most of the time people decide to ignore it, to minimize it. Well, obviously there's a lot you need to process right now. You have a lot to do, you have a lot to meditate, you have a lot to learn. This is the way. Thanks for listening. Take care and see you soon.